the Misfits were the first band you were in. How did that come about? How did the Misfits come into your orbit? How did you end up in the Misfits?
They had a record in Max's, and they had a record in CBGB's, what I used to hear, Bullet. And then I was dating this girl named Amy from Chicago, and she was friends with this girl, Natasha, who had a store on 8th Street, and the Misfits were friends with Natasha. So this girl, Amy, that I was dating, told me, oh, this band, they're looking for a drummer, the Misfits. And I was like, who? You know, like I didn't know who they was, but I knew they had a song in the jukeboxes, which was kind of clever, I thought. And so I auditioned for them, but I didn't really know their music. So, you know. So the first time I went, Glenn was like, nah, this guy I know. But the Jerry, the bass player, was like, no, he could play. He doesn't know our songs, but this guy could play drums, you know. So then he gave me like an EP, and he said, if you could come back next week and play these 3 or 4 songs, then that would be good. So that's what I did. I listened to the songs and I nailed it. And then, then Glenn was like, yeah, that's the drummer, you know. So
I know Jerry's mentioned before that your work ethic was a big part. The fact that you'd work, during the day and you get on a bus to go out there. He said your commitment and your work ethic was a big part of really them being able to really pull it together. Any memories of sort of, of those days of rehearsals and taking the bus out there and stuff?
I got to say for Jerry and Doyle and that they had a good work ethic too. Like, I went out there 3 nights a week, like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or whatever. And I just, I worked in the city, got on a bus, went to Jersey, practiced, came back to the city, then went to Queens. But they were there too. So, they worked and they went to whatever, and they had to be there too. So, we were a sharp, band. You rehearse a lot, you get good. It's, you just get good,
Were you rehearsing those early days at the factory, at their father's factory? Is that where you guys rehearsed?
Well, before that, we used to rehearse in Lodi. Before the father bought the factory, we used to rehearse in Lodi in the garage. They had a 2-car garage, so half of it was Kenny's with his cars. A brother that doesn't play Kenny, and the other half, Bill and Jerry had their studio, their rehearsal studio. So that's where I always rehearsed with them in the garage,
Yeah. And when you and here's an early shot when you first joined, it was Bobby Steele, right? Was playing guitar. This was the lineup. You, Bobby Steele, Glenn, and Jerry, right?
Yeah.
And that
didn't last too long.
No.
No, then I don't know. And then after I was in the band 6 months, then Doyle became the guitar player.
Right, and I guess this lineup with Bobby Steele was the one show. Yeah, that's right. Club. I have the flyer for it. You guys.
57.
No, this was the one show with Bobby was in this place, Club Exile in Long Island City.
Oh yeah, in Astoria. That was in Astoria at Club Exile.
Right. Yeah, you remember that place?
Tony. Yeah, I remember that show. That was my first show, I think. Or my second show. I think Chase Park. Chase Park was my first show, and then we played Exile.
Right.
So because all my friends from Queens could actually go to this show, it was easy to get to for them.
Right.
And that's how I got the name Googy, because they used to call me Magoo, my original friends from Queens, and the guys from the Misfits heard Magoo, and Jerry started going Googy, and I was like, shut the fuck up, and it stuck, like shit, like on a shoe.
I was going to ask where that came from. So yeah,
that's where it came from. As a kid, I was Mr. Magoo. I was Magoo 42.
The Misfits didn't play a lot back then, right? It wasn't like later on when bands were like playing, like Misfits seemed to play not a lot. Is that fair to say?
Well, we didn't play in New York City a lot because we didn't want to play New York City out. Like you want to only play in the city twice a year or something, because we wanted to play other places. You know what I'm saying. So it wasn't that we didn't play a lot. We'd fly and do 20 shows in the West Coast or like 10 shows in the Midwest, but we were trying to just go other places. Like you can't always like just play in New York and live and die in New York. And
Yeah.
especially with the punk rock, you got to make your own following. The bands that get out there like Black Flag and the Misfits, we went to all these little towns that bigger bands wouldn't go to, and the places were packed because they were appreciative of a band coming to their town. I
Right.
played the Whiskey a Go Go, Metallica. They were a brand new band. Like, and the guy was, I remember, the drummer and maybe the guitar player were they like, oh, we're in Metallica, and I was like, oh, that's nice. You know what I mean? And then you know, years, a couple of years later, I should have said, man, what's your phone number, dude? But I was just like, you don't know with people, what they're gonna blow up or not, But they like the Misfits a lot.
Here's I guess this is a pretty early shot of you in the band. Looks like you're smoking a spliff there too. But you and Jerry, this looks pretty early on in the game.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wow, that is early.
Were you when you joined the band and they had this image? Did you feel like did you need to? Was there pressure to sort of get with the program, change your image? Like you were always kind of a misfit among the misfits. Like how did their image sort of? Was there like look image wise? Was it awkward? Like was there any stress or any
Listen,
drama? Go ahead.
I'll conform a little bit, but there's only so much I could do. They had their look, and I had my look. But to legitimize their look, me being like Mr. Joe Regular in the back playing the drums kind of makes them look more real. You know what I mean? It legitimizes them. But if everybody just conforms, then well, what are we, fucking sheep over here?
Yeah.
I do what I do. I do my art my way. They do it their way, and it's all good.
Yeah.
I'm like Dr. Serious when they walk in, and they're like Dr. fucking bug outs.
Yeah. There
See,
you
there
go.
you go. I have blonde hair, and this is where we took the picture. This is where we took the picture for the album cover, and Glenn cut my hair off and then put a color backdrop and made me look like a bald headed dude. But I should have let it go. It's all good. I was too serious as a young man.
You're right. Right.
You know what I mean? Like I think like why quit a band? You know what I mean? Just let it go on forever. Who gives a shit? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like why?
Yeah.
You know?
These shots are great. The stuff in the cave and all that. Where was this? Do you remember? Is this Jersey? This cave?
Yeah, that's probably Jersey or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Glenn
Yeah.
would get all weird. Glenn was like he should have been a filmmaker. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think those
But notice they're in black. I'm wearing white. Like I always try to do things my own way.
yeah. Here's another one. Somebody I know there's a lot of Misfits people out there. Let me these are Erie Vaughn's photos. I believe, right?
Oh, Erie, the
So
guy that was living in the block.
yeah, Erie Vaughn. Yeah, he ended up in Danzig.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is probably like in Jersey somewhere.
Right. Yes.
Like there's a
Yes.
lot of toxic wasteland in fucking Jersey.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. There's a lot of toxins in Jersey.
Toxic
So
wasteland.
let me ask you about this 3 Hits from Hell.
Yeah.
I know this was part of a bigger recording session that was kind of never released, and the songs kind of dribbled out. Your thoughts on this and the first not Walk Among Us, but the early recordings that you did?
Well, what do you want me to tell you? You go in and you rehearse the shit out of songs, and then you go in and you record the frickin' things. Drew, you know me. I
I do.
always want to record. If people aren't going to record, then how you gonna get a gig? You know what was clever about the Misfits? The Misfits made their own record label, Plan 9. That was a little clever thing because then they pressed up the records, and then the records could get into CBGBs and Maxes. And then if I give somebody a record at a club, I'll get a show. But if I give them like, a little fucking CD tape and say, can I warm up? No, fuck off. You got to come in larger than life, or you're never gonna get. Like the guy from Aerosmith, fake it till you make it.
Yeah, yeah. James Curry says Googy rules. He's my favorite of the Misfits drummers. His playing and pacing allowed the songs to shine.
Yeah, because you listen. With music, you can't overplay music, but you can't underplay it. You got to play it for what it is, and just do it simply.
Yeah.
The bass and drum should be pretty simple. It shouldn't be overcomplicated.
Yeah, and do you remember that? Like, there was a whole bunch of songs that were recorded and was never released, and this stuff's just kind of dribbled out, right?
I don't know about that, Drew. Dribbled out. You make a little. We made the album, but we made like three of these EPs. Like they had an EP out, Bullet. They had Bullet, and they had something else, and then we made like 2 or 3 EPs, and then we made an album because nobody was paying for us to do an album until we got a Slash record deal. So why put out an album when you could just put out 3 songs on an EP and tell people, that's what we got. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just to put shit out there to get into the jukeboxes because jukeboxes in 1979, 1980 existed.
Yeah. People recognize this as sort of the quintessential, the Misfits album, and your drumming is what anchors the whole thing. Any memories and thoughts on this?
Well, I'm glad that I did it. I'm really happy that we did it and we accomplished it. I remember after it was like the 30th anniversary, and I got a call from Jerry, and he said, it was it's 30 or 40 years old. I forget what it was. And I was like, man, thank God we did that. You know what I mean? Like, it's always good to make the recordings. You know what I mean? If I could go back in time, Drew, I would have went along with the program a little bit more. And, sometimes in life when you're young, you think life ain't happening quick enough. So I got to do something else, but if I just kept this pace, it would have been a better situation. But it is what it is,
Yeah. Hindsight is
look, you're looking at the picture here of this picture, and you see the drummer Googy. I got blonde, chippy hair, and I was so upset. And I went to rehearsal. I remember, I went to the rehearsal in Lodi, and Jerry's mother was cooking dinner. Jane, she was such a nice lady. She fed me every time, and Jerry and his family were really great people. They're really great people, the Kayafis. There's no doubt about it. I shouldn't give up a last name like that, but Kenny and them. But when I saw this, I got so upset that's I shouldn't have got upset. I should have just said, you know what, Uncle Fester could be my new nickname.
Hey, let me ask you about this sort of this incident, this kind of legendary incident in Misfits lore at the Elite Club when like the shit got crazy and people were chucking shit and like what many years later, what's your take on that incident in April 10th, 1982? You remember that?
You want to hear the funniest thing about life? My brother passed away, but he used to drink at this Irish bar in Midtown. And he tells me he meets this kid that was the kid that threw the full beer can at the drummer's head. And he doesn't realize that that's my brother. And so he's telling my brother the story, and he goes, you threw a full beer can off at my brother's head, and you hit him in the head. You almost killed him. You almost knocked him right off the drum stool. And then he gathered himself and jumped in the crowd and banged you out. And then Doyle got nervous and whacked the guy over the head with the guitar because Kenny was helping me. His brother was on the sound. He was doing the soundboard with Earl from Sacker and Truss, and Earl from Sacker and Truss and and Henry from Black Flag like came with us. Like when we went to California, we met them, and then they came with us to the shows. So they were there. So it was like Earl, Kenny, and Henry, and then there were the four of us. So it was like seven of us. And then we had to kind of fight our way out of there. But what happened was the kid hit me, and I shouldn't have done it, but I jumped in and I banged him out. I was like, motherfucker, hit me with an empty beer can, not a whole one, bro. It almost killed me.
Wow.
But it was funny that the kid said to my brother, your brother had every right to jump in and fucking bang me in the head. And then because I shouldn't have fucking done that. Like that was nasty.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I met Jello Biafra and all that stuff that night. And, and then they wanted to wreck all our equipment and we had to go like the incident happened real quick. And then the concert was over after like one song. Then we went up to the dressing room, but when you look out the window, they were wrecking our equipment and our backdrop and everything. And I said, guys, we got to go back down there onto the stage and throw these guys off and get our shit back because we got shows to do. This is the beginning of the tour. So we marched down, the seven of us, and we started like beating the hell out of anybody that was on the stage got beat. I'm sorry. I kicked you in your ass and I threw you off the stage because I had to save my drums and my shit. And then we had to sneak out, had to get out of there. And by rights, we should have been arrested. And the cops were against the punk rock kids, so they were busy trying to beat up the punk rock kids outside, and we were sneaking out the back door trying to get back to LA, man. Holy shit, what a fucking scene that was.
Were the shows violent by nature back then constantly? Was that a constant thing to deal with?
I don't know. They used to throw darts at the Sex Pistols. You go to London, like there was this one band, and they used to spit at them. They had a song, Stand Up and Spit. I remember who the fuck that was. And everyone would spit on them. And I go, man, that's fucking gross, man. Anybody spits at me is getting an ass kicking,
Yeah, I hear that.
A lot of people, when punk rock first started, I don't know if you remember, but when it first started, people were like, that shit sucks. They hated it. It was like disco. People like really fucking. They didn't. Like they couldn't open their mind that maybe there was something else out there.
Yeah.
So it was weird. It was.
And people would come to shows to just get into some shit too. They come to shows.
Well, they go into the mosh pit. You go, did you come here to mosh, or did you come here to try to hurt somebody? It's questionable.
Yeah.
And then with the spikes, could you leave your spiky jacket off to the side, please? You're gonna hurt me.
Yeah.
I'm more into not, have fun. It's like, and I like to say this. I want to bury the hatchet right here. Whatever happened between me and Glenn in the basement when I saw that album cover, I was wrong. I should have just handled it differently. Because I think Glenn was a lot of fun, and he was a good friend, and he was a lot of fun. He's a good guy, you know what I mean? And he's talented, and he can sing, you know what I mean? So, I should have said, okay, call me, whatever, Uncle Fester with the bald head, we know who he is. But, I handled it differently, so you can't go back. But I wanted to put it on the record that I think he's, talented and whatnot. And besides that, when we used to travel around, the four of us, we had a good time. We liked each other. He's a good guy.
I was going to ask you, like, were you friends with any of the guys? Were there any fond memories of being in the band?
Always. All my memories of the band were great. Jerry's father coming to pick us up at LaGuardia Airport. Jerry's father used to call me Northern Boulevard. He'd go, Northern Boulevard. And then he dropped me off like on the roll on like 86th and Northern, because I lived in Jackson Heights. And he'd be like, all right, get out, And I'd be like, all right, see you guys later, And then they go to Jersey and whatever, Jerry's father played a key. I remember after that show in San Francisco where there was that riot.
Move back a little so we can see you. Move back there you go.
After that show, we went to this Italian restaurant that Jerry's father was Italian from New Jersey. He said, go to this restaurant and eat some food. And then he was directing us like what to do. He was like, well, you guys got to move on. they were very supportive. I had great memories of these people, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, another kind of thing that's been handed down through folklore is sort of this McDonald's incident. Did this really happen? Was that the breaking point in the band that you and Glenn got into a scrap over cheeseburger?
No, 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 not at all. It was the whole thing in the basement with the album cover. I just thought that
Ah,
he should have asked me first. You know.
right. So the whole
You
the
know,
whole cheese
oh,
the whole cheese.
I used to go into McDonald's and say, "Could I have a cheeseburger but hold the burger?" And they
Yeah,
go, "We can't do that." Then I say, "Okay, give me an apple pie. Give me 2 apple pies and a French fry and a chocolate shake or something." I don't fucking know. I gotta get out of here. I'm in the middle of America. I says,
yeah,
"Could you run across the street and get me some broccoli?" You know, like you're in the middle of farmland and you can't get fresh broccoli, but they're growing it across the street. You know.
yeah. So the whole cheeseburger thing, that's just a myth.
Yeah, that ain't true.
How did it end?
Well, I really don't want to talk how it end because you know I'm a little bit of a hothead, you know. So like I
Yeah.
don't put me in. I want to put myself in a good light.
Yeah, right. Fair enough. Fair.
Drew, you know me. Drew,
I
you
do.
know me.
I do. I do.
I don't
But
suffer
you know,
fools. But listen to me. In hindsight, I wish I could have took that day back and just said, "Okay, no problem. Let's make another album." I should have made 5 albums with Glenn and the
yeah,
Misfits. Come on. You
yeah.
know what I mean? We just got bigger. We should have been on the tour with Metallica years ago. You know what? You know we wasted all. And then he went and did that. He did good by him.
Yeah.
You know, Rick Rubin produced him. You know, he was on American Records. He did good.
Well, he's a
You
talented
know.
guy and he's a great singer.
Yeah, he got a great voice. That's for sure. And he got the horror thing down. You know, he watches a
Yeah.
horror movie and he goes home and he writes a song about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the attack of the woman. He'll be like, "Yo, Giant, she was great."
Right.
He got a clever. And even the Dead Kennedys got their name from the Bullet record. Yeah, 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 yeah. So the Dead Kennedys saw that that's how they got their name. Like that's what the guy told me.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Good.
but
Good.
you know,
Good stuff. Um.
and that
That
was before I
said,
was in the band.
yeah.
That was one of the records in the jukebox that I knew they had. You know.